There's a super interesting development that is going on today that I haven't seen anyone else cover yet. So I want to cover this and go over it. The bottom line is that there are multiple entities that are either in the process of or have already filed suit against Perplexity AI. And as someone that has covered this issue quite extensively, and as someone that generally favors the AI companies in these lawsuits, the Perplexity AI lawsuits in particular hit different, and they are different. And I think that's why a lot of companies are capitalizing very specifically on Perplexity AI. I would be very nervous about backing Perplexity AI, and I'd be very nervous if I was Perplexity AI in any way, shape, or form. I think that a lot of these other AI companies, they're a lot more shielded from this than Perplexity is. Perplexity is wide openly exposed to this. And then so as of today, it's the New York Times, the New York Post, and the Dow Jones have all filed suit against Perplexity specifically. And they're all going all in on Perplexity. And there's reasons behind this. So let's break down why exactly these companies are going all in on Perplexity AI as opposed to other companies. I'm going to break this down with a very simple example. This is a search. What is the capital of France? The capital of France is Paris. This is the most shielded example possible. This is from ChatGPT, and OpenAI is very smart with this, right? Here it is. Same thing with Claude. Claude's response: what is the capital of France? Paris. Very straightforward, very simple answers, right? One sentence, simple, decisive. And these, we'll come back to this in a second, but it's very important how short these are. Now let's go here to Gemini. Capital of Paris is France, but capital of France is Paris, but Gemini gives a source, and so I was like Google is in a little bit better territory within this because Google owns Google, right? So this is pooling from Google in and of itself, so it would be harder for an entity to sue Google in this instance, in my mind, right? But then so let's go to Perplexity. What is the capital of France? The capital of France is Paris. It has held this status since the early history of the nation, with its significance solidified under King Clovis I in the 5th century. Paris is not only the largest city in France, but also has a major center for finance, culture, fashion, and gastronomy globally. As of January 2023, Paris has an estimated population of approximately 2.1 million residents within its city limits, and around 12.3 million in the greater Île-de-France region. And then we have this second paragraph here, and all of its source, lots of sources, right? And then this is the bottom line that it all comes down to, is that like there's no denying whatsoever, there is absolutely zero plausible deniability that this model is pulling this information from sources and directly citing the sources from which it's pulling this information from, right? And then so a lot of people, from a legal perspective, you have to break this argument down into two steps. Step one is the actual web scraping itself, pulling the information. The second step is what you do with the information past that step, right? And then so this is important because when we're talking about legal arguments and legal perspectives, they like to be broad and very specific and to encompass the entire area, right? And then so if you put a ban on, number one, on a scraping, essentially you put a ban on human reading. It would be, it's virtually impossible within the law to separate out the mechanisms of like scraping data, like pooling data from a source, as opposed to reading it or utilizing your memory for these types of things, right? Like you have to make that distinction. And then so the distinction comes with what you do post that information. If you scrape the information and then you dump that information into a database, that's illegal. If you scrape the information and then you just throw it into the sky, that's not illegal. And so what we're looking at here with Perplexity is obviously scraping of the information, and then we'll call Perplexity the database in this instance. I think that would be the legal argument, right? And then so in this instance, the information is being scraped and directly dumped and displayed into a database, and that database is what's being displayed back to you. And I think That will be the legal argument and the legal difference here, as opposed to this and this, right? This is very different. And then so from a legal, technical, mathematical, and physics-based perspective, this is not the same. And then so what is occurring here is that this model, ChatGPT 4.0 in this instance, has been trained on a massive data set. We'll call it the internet. And then it's been exposed to this massive data set, and then it's taking in patterns of this data set. And then it's made up of, in this instance, let's call it, we'll say 400 billion neurons of parameters, just to be like, and really specific, right? And narrow. So 400 billion parameters. Each one of those parameters can store 2 bits of information, and that 2 bits is not direct information. It's more patterns of information. So it would be Paris plus France equals France capital would be kind of more of the information type that would be stored in here in these 2 bits. And then it would also be not exactly in that format, right? It would be in mathematical format, mathematical equations, not English, not any sort of human readable language whatsoever. It would be what we call multiple transformations done to this data. It would be 100% indistinguishable and or 100% distinguishable from these sources, right? And then so when we get this answer back, this is a true answer. What is the capital of France? The capital of France is Paris. It's just pulling Paris from one of its parameters, right? And then it's somewhere within one of its parameters, it has this answer within the parameter that's been soaked in data. And then this data is the data that comes out of that, which is a completely different process than this, which is very specifically pulling directly from these sources and these databases and this database. And if you notice, right, like New York Times is going all in on these lawsuits, and they're going all in, like they're examining the back end of ChatGPT in dark rooms right now, etc. They're trying to get at this, right? They're trying to find some sort of instance where this data gets stored like this in the LLM model. This would be like the golden goose for the New York Times, but they're not going to find that within this, right? Within ChatGPT, within Claude, they aren't. But within Perplexity, I mean, this company's valued at $8 billion today. Like, if I were investing in Perplexity very specifically, honestly, if I were investing in any of these companies, I'd be nervous, right? I'm short on AI from a business and corporate sense, from as far as profitability. I think that it's a game changer in the corporate world and in the business sense, but from a profitability sense and from like being able to monetize it, I don't really like it's not there because of situations like this, right? Like there's just nothing to actually monetize within it for yourself without running into legal issues. And then if you do, then you run into situations like this, and then these companies are dogpiling on Perplexity. And I think that this is just, to me, the tip of the iceberg, right? We see the dam breaking today with the Dow Jones and the New York Post, but once more companies sniff this, literally any company, like if you just prove that you're cited on this, I would sue Perplexity flat out. And then so Wikipedia, Adelphia, it'd be pretty easy, I'd imagine, to get yourself cited on this and then file a lawsuit, right? Like the whole authors like George R.R. Martin, all those people, they're gonna be the next ones that are gonna go all in on this, right? Like all of the lawsuits that OpenAI is currently beating back, and Anthropic is currently beating back, Perplexity is not gonna be back. It's just my perspective, knowing the technology of these things and all around it. If you understand it, this is a major, huge difference from a technology perspective. Like it can't be overstated enough how different this is and how much of a legal burden this puts on Perplexity that I don't see any way that they get out of it. So I would sell all my Perplexity stock now if I could. That's sort of my bottom line, flat out. I don't see a world where they come out of this. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.